Hi everyone, today I am making another yummy pulled pork leftover recipe. This time it's a one-pan barbecue pulled pork and rice skillet meal. It's a super easy way to turn a little bit of leftover pork into a whole new dinner. It'll help you stretch it if you have a little left, or if you're just getting sick of eating pulled pork sandwiches. It's a good way to kind of use it up in a different way. So I had a tablespoon of vegetable oil over medium heat, kind of warming up. Now I'm going to add onions and bell peppers. And we're going to cook these until the onions are starting to get soft and everything's getting fragrant. I used a yellow and green pepper today. You can use whatever you'd like. This is a little more pepper than I usually use, but I have a lot on hand right now because they're in season. That's the beauty of a recipe like this. As long as you get basically the liquid to rice ratio right, everything else you can fudge a little bit and add extra if you like it, leave it out if you don't, and it's not really going to mess anything up. So we're going to let these cook for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of garlic powder, about 2 teaspoons. I love working or reworking, I guess, leftovers into something new, especially pulled pork for whatever reason. That tends to be one of my favorites, I guess, because normally when you make it, you make a ton, so there's almost always leftovers. So I have a lot of fun kind of figuring out different things to do with them. I've got pulled pork enchiladas that we really love, pulled pork nachos. Of course, there's sandwiches and all sorts of different ways you can use them. So depending on the seasoning of the pulled pork, it's also great over rice or pasta or mashed potatoes or all sorts of things. So, all right, we'll let these cook for a minute. All right, the onions are starting to get good and translucent, so I'm going to go ahead and add my pulled pork. Now this pulled pork is pretty well seasoned, and I'm going to be adding barbecue sauce and other things later, so I'm not going to get too crazy with adding salt and pepper. If you think that you're going to need some, feel free to add some at this stage, but like I said, with the pulled pork being so well seasoned, and I know that I'm going to have the barbecue sauce and stuff later, I'm not going to add a whole lot of salt here. But definitely feel free. All right, and I'm also going to add a cup of rice. I'm using just plain white rice here. I'm going to go ahead and let that toast for a minute. Let everything get all hot and combined here. All right, my rice is good and toasty, so I'm going to go ahead and add my water. If you want to add chicken stock or something, you're more than welcome to, but again, we're going to have so many flavors going in this in the end that I feel like water does a good job. I've got a little bit of a fond here, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of deglaze my pan. Get all that good stuff mixed in. Now we're going to bring this to a boil, and then we're going to simmer it for about 20 minutes. If you have a lid to your pan, you can go ahead and put it on. If you are using a pan you don't have a lid to, don't worry about it. Just keep an eye on it and add more water if you need. And then we're going to finish adding our ingredients once this rice hits al dente. So it doesn't have to be completely done, but you want most of the water to be absorbed. All right, so it's been about 20 minutes. Let's see what we've got. It's looking pretty good. As you can see, most of the water is absorbed already. The rice isn't quite all the way soft. It's still got a little crunch to it, but that's all right because we're going to cook it a little bit more here. If it's looking like it needs a little more liquid, feel free to add a little bit more. I'm going to add a can of roasted tomatoes. These happen to be fire roasted. I usually make it with regular diced tomatoes. I'm sorry. I normally make it with diced tomatoes. These are fire roasted tomatoes. Either way will be fine. I thought the fire roasted might add a nice little smokiness. It'll complement the smoked pork and the barbecue sauce pretty well. I've got a can of drained and rinsed black beans. I've got a cup of corn. And then 3/4 of a cup of barbecue sauce. Now I'm going to stir this all together and just let it cook for a little bit. All right, I'm going to let this cook another 5 or 10 minutes just to make sure everything is cooked through and give that rice another chance to soak up a little bit of liquid. And we will check it out here in just a few. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes. You might be able to see that things are kind of bubbling along nicely here. This is a really good time to give yourself a little taste and make sure that you have enough salt and everything in there. If not, this is a good time to add a little bit more salt or a tiny bit more liquid if you need it. Once you're satisfied with your seasoning level, we're going to put some cheese on top. Using cheddar today, but like pepper jack or Kojak or pretty much anything would be a nice little way to top it off here. Just give yourself a nice little layer. Now if your pan is oven safe, you can go ahead and stick it under the broiler for a couple minutes to melt this cheese and give it a nice top. If not, and you have a lid, go ahead and put the lid on and just let it melt for a few minutes. Whatever works best for you is fine. Like I said, just make sure if you're going to put it under the broiler that that's okay with the pan you're using. This is cast iron, so obviously that's okay for this. And then if you want, you can... All right, so I did stick this under the broiler for just 3 minutes or so. So it doesn't take long at all. I'm going to sprinkle some fresh herbs on top. And maybe a pickled jalapeno or two. And there we go. That'll be a yummy dinner. If you want the full recipe, go ahead and click on over to my site. That's over there along with a ton of other great pulled pork recipes. So be sure to check them out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.